He sat alone in her room, the dim yellow light of the lamp casting long, tired shadows across the walls. It was late, far past the hour when the world outside quieted and slipped into sleep, but she was awake, staring up at a ceiling she knew too well. Every crack, every uneven paint stroke felt like a map of the nights she spent lying there with her thoughts circling her like restless birds. She had grown used to silence. Used to the ache that pressed against her chest whenever she thought too long about the life she wanted and the life she had. Used to the way her heart clenched every time she remembered how different things were supposed to be. She had not imagined a life that looked like this, filled with unfinished dreams, unanswered prayers, and a loneliness that didn't seem to ease no matter how long she waited. She had tried, she really had, she put in the work, she showed up when no one saw, she wiped her tears and kept going. She told herself to be patient, to trust, to believe that something good had to be coming. But instead of getting better, things seemed to unravel even more. The job she had poured years of effort into was gone in a single conversation that lasted less than 3 minutes. The people she loved slowly stepped back, busy with their own lives, until she looked around one day and realized she was carrying everything alone. Her prayers felt like words tossed into an empty room, heard by no one, answered by nothing. She wondered if maybe she had misunderstood God. Maybe she had expected too much. Maybe she was the type of person things simply didn't work out for. The thought hurt more than she expected. That night, the weight of everything she had been holding pressed so heavily on her that she couldn't move. Tears slipped from her eyes without her forcing them, silent and steady. She buried her face in her hands, hating how familiar this moment was. How many nights had she ended up like this? Too many, more than she could count. God, she whispered, though her voice cracked so softly she barely heard it herself. I don't know what to do anymore. I've given all I have. I don't know what else to give. Her hands trembled in her lap. Her breathing came quick, shallow. She felt like she was falling, but into what, she didn't know. Then, something happened. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. Quiet, like the gentle, steady opening of a door in the dark. A warmth settled in her chest. Not the kind that made her smile or forget, but the kind that simply held her. Like someone had placed their hand over her heart and said, I see you. She didn't hear a voice in the way one hears sound. It came from inside, from somewhere she couldn't name but instantly recognized. A whisper, not spoken aloud, but understood clearly. This is not your end. This is your turning point. She froze. Her tears stopped. Her breath steadied. A turning point, now, when everything was broken and empty. The idea seemed impossible, and yet, deep inside, she felt the truth of it. It wasn't encouragement. It wasn't wishful thinking. It was certainty, like a truth she had always known, but forgot. She leaned back slowly, staring at the ceiling again, but this time, it didn't feel heavy. Her room didn't feel suffocating. The silence no longer felt like abandonment. Something had shifted, even if she couldn't explain it. Her mind drifted back through her life, not to the failures, but to the moments she survived. The nights she cried but still woke up the next morning. The heartbreak that once felt like the end but became the beginning of something better. The times she thought she would break but somehow didn't. She realized then that every battle she had fought had not destroyed her, it had shaped her. She remembered being younger and believing that blessings were only the things that looked beautiful. But now, she understood that some blessings come disguised as endings. Some answers are hidden inside disappointments. Some protection looks like loss. Maybe what fell apart had to fall apart. Maybe what left was never meant to stay. Maybe what hurt was clearing space for what could heal. The thought didn't erase her pain, but it made space inside it. Enough room for a breath. Enough room for hope to flicker just a little. She wiped her face and sat up, the quiet in the room feeling different now, gentler, like someone else was sitting with her. She didn't have solutions. She didn't have a plan. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Belief. Not in circumstances, not in timing, not in luck, but in God, in the one who had carried her through every storm even when she didn't feel it. The one who had seen every tear, heard every prayer, stayed close even when she thought he was silent. She realized something life-changing. If she had truly been alone, she would have broken long ago. But she didn't break. She was still here, still standing, still breathing, still hoping. That meant something. That was something. And in that moment, she understood the whisper more clearly. This moment, the one she thought was her collapse, was actually the moment the page turned. The moment one chapter ended and another began. The moment God shifted her story in a direction she could not yet see. This was not a downfall. This was a transition. She didn't know what was coming. But she knew something was. And for the first time in months, she felt peace, not because everything was fixed, but because she no longer believed she had been abandoned. That night, she laid her head on her pillow, eyes soft and steady, and whispered into the darkness. "Okay, I'm listening." For the first time in a long time, she fell asleep without crying. The next week did not begin with thunder or miracles. There were no flashes of light, no sudden changes in the world around her. The same streets outside her window. The same sky. The same routines. But she was different. Something inside her had shifted. Quietly, deeply, permanently. She woke up that first morning with a calmness she did not force. Her heart still hurt, but the pain no longer controlled her. The emptiness was still there, but it no longer felt endless. She moved slowly, not because she was tired, but because she was learning to breathe again. She got up, washed her face, made her bed. Simple things, small things, but they felt like reclaiming pieces of herself she had lost along the way. There was no rush now. No desperation. No frantic attempts to fix everything at once. She had finally stopped trying to hold the world together with her bare hands. She began to trust that God was holding it instead. Days went by. Nothing dramatic happened. Not yet. But she noticed changes too subtle for the world to see. The things that once broke her no longer made her collapse. The thoughts that once consumed her began to lose their power. The fear that once ran her life began to loosen its grip. Sometimes she would pause midday, placing her hand on her heart, feeling the quiet strength there. She didn't know where she was going next, but she no longer feared the unknown. She felt guided. One afternoon, she sat outside beneath a pale, warm sky. The breeze brushed through her hair, soft and gentle. For the first time in a long while, she simply watched the world instead of rushing through it. And in that stillness, she began to notice things she had forgotten to see. The way sunlight glowed through tree leaves, the sound of birds flying overhead, the slow rhythm of ordinary peace. It felt like the world was breathing with her. She realized that life had not been still because she was abandoned. It had been still because she was being prepared. Her heart needed healing before her blessings could reach her. Her strength had to root deeper before her calling could unfold. Her foundation needed to be rebuilt so nothing that came next would break her again. She didn't resent the waiting anymore. She began to understand it. On the 5th day, she received a message, an invitation to a community workshop she had once attended years ago. She had not thought of it in forever. The message was simple, nothing grand, just a notification. She almost ignored it, but something inside whispered, "Go." Not loudly, just gently, steadily. So she went. The workshop room was small but warm. People talked in low voices, working on projects, sharing stories. She sat at the edge of the room, observing more than participating. Then she heard someone call her name. She turned, and saw a woman she barely remembered but who, somehow, remembered her. They spoke. What began as small talk grew into honest conversation. And in that conversation, she shared a little of her story, not all, but enough. And the woman looked at her with soft, sincere eyes. "Your story is not over," she said. "I don't know what you're going through. But I can tell. Something is shifting for you." The words echoed the whisper she heard in her room. "This is your turning point." Her chest tightened. Not with pain, but recognition. It was confirmation. The woman then did something unexpected. She mentioned an opportunity, an opening at an organization connected to the field the girl had once dreamed of working in. A field she had given up on because she thought the door had closed forever. "They're looking for someone with your exact strengths," the woman said. "If you're interested, I'll recommend you personally." She didn't have to force it. She didn't have to beg. She didn't have to chase. The door came to her. Not by accident, not by coincidence. But by divine timing, she applied. Not with desperation, but with calm assurance. Days later, she received a call. They didn't ask for a second interview. They didn't hesitate. They didn't question her worth. They simply said, "We'd be honored to have you. When can you start?" Her hand shook as she held the phone. She felt tears rising, but these tears were different. Soft, warm, full of awe. She said quietly, "Thank you. I can start soon." When she hung up the phone, she didn't fall to the floor or scream or run. She simply sat still, and she remembered the night she whispered, "I don't know what to do anymore." She remembered how broken she felt. She remembered how heavy her heart was. And she remembered the whisper that followed. "This is your turning point." She understood now. What she thought was the moment of collapse was the moment God began rebuilding her life from the foundation up. The waiting was not punishment. It was shaping. It was strengthening. It was preparation. She had not been forgotten. She had been protected. Protected from settling for less than she was meant for. Protected from staying in places she had outgrown. Protected from people who could not walk with her into her destiny. Every closed door had been intentional. Every silence had meaning. Every loss made room. She stood up, walked to her window, and looked at the sky glowing gold with sunset. It didn't look like the same sky from before. But maybe, it was she who was different. She whispered softly, steady and sure, "I'm ready now." Not because everything was perfect. Not because she understood the whole path. Not because the fear was gone entirely. But because she finally believed. God was leading her. God was not late. God was not distant. God was not silent. God was working, even when she could not see it. And now, the time had come. Her story was turning. Her next chapter had already begun.